Alrighty, welcome back, indie campers, to the Chupacabra's lair. I'm your host, Larry, the most delectable Chupacabra man, and we're back for some more Larry Does Ludum number 39, taking a look at games that all revolve around the game jam theme of running low or running out of energy. So to start us off, we've got Energy Robot, a tale that never ends, and this one is made by Rixid and Yogi. I don't think it's Yogi the bear, although Yogi, if you are the bear, it's good that you get out of the park once in a while and let Boo Boo have some alone time. But no, I remember Rixid was actually the developer that made that shape-shifting insect game that I featured a few game jams ago, the shape-shifting game jam, and that was pretty interesting. You could get a bunch of different ever-evolving powers by changing into different insects as some sort of amorphous shape-shifting creature, which was kind of neat. So it's always nice to see it when indies continue to grow their skills and to make cooler and newer games. So Energy Robot, to start us off here today, is an endless running title where we're playing as what I can only assume is the robotic version of the gingerbread man, who is trying to escape its either creator or its owner, probably like a snot-nosed kid who's obsessed with trying to do a bunch of tea parties or get it to have like a bunch of action-packed adventures fighting robots and aliens in space. I'd probably be pretty concerned for my well-being too. And we're trying to escape from something or somebody, and we have to go along an endless coastal highway, gathering batteries and trying to avoid different obstacles. And, you know, so far it runs pretty well. I'm not entirely super in love with the angle of this game, it must be said, but there's plenty of different obstacles that would make sense for a cute little tin robot to be concerned with. You got giant potholes. That's just a problem for everybody. Potholes will kill my car, it's bad for your legs, and it'll consume little robots and eat them. All things that I'm sure we can well understand. Then we've got little fire hydrants that have been popped open for the summertime. They probably were used to cool down some neighbor kids, but we don't want to get our robotic legs wet because that'll damage us. And then we've got some different barricades. Looks like there's some maintenance that needs to be done on the road, so they've barricaded it off. And otherwise, we just have to try and make sure we have enough energy to keep running because, well, it's not easy being a robot. You basically chug down Duracell batteries like nobody's business. It's like crack, essentially. And then, of course, we have to be careful not to guzzle gasoline. We're not one of those bizarre old-school Amish toys that runs off of sweet and wholesome petrol. No, we are a green robot. We're all about that green renewable energy, preferably in a variety that is rechargeable batteries, recharged with maybe like a wind turbine. So I don't really have a lot to say about this game. It's very simple and straightforward. It's just that the thing that gets me with a lot of Endless Runner games that I've played with over the years is you gotta be careful with what direction the camera and the obstacles are coming and what direction your character is running. So in this case, I think if you had a slightly raised up angle, just a few degrees up a little bit, for me to get a better idea of both distance, because it's kind of hard for me to gauge how far apart things are, and how I need to jump and when I need to jump, and also it'll give me a better sense of what obstacles are coming up in the distance. And it's a tricky thing, I will admit. Depending on the game that you're playing, or you're making, some angles work better for some people than others. It really just depends on how their brain is going to process things like angles, or incoming obstacles. And in this case, I just need a slight increase, just a smidgen. Or can I drag? No. I was hoping for a second there that I missed a click and drag functionality. But other than that, like, this feels pretty solid. The animations are good, it looks like this character's running, although maybe not always making contact with the ground. All of the obstacles mostly make sense. I'm not sure about the gas part, but maybe it's just to be like green energy robot. And then the other thing I think would be good is if you decided to expand upon this game, and I tell this to a lot of Endless Runner title developers, is that I always like it when my character in an Endless Runner game has somewhere to run to. Now, that might be a little bit of an oxymoron. You know, Endless Runner, you're supposed to be running endlessly in one sort of weird purgatory dimension full of robotic dangers, but it's always interesting if you put in like a very subtle, very simplistic story to a title like this, where your robot actually has something that they're running from. Again, like there's a kid that is scary, wants them to do weird stuff, or maybe their owner was a hacker that wanted them to do evil things. And then you could also give it like a story as to where they're going. Like, where did they run to? Did they hear about like a place in a magazine they saw before they escaped the house? And then after you get like a certain score unlocked, or you've played a map enough times to get a certain distance, then that could unlock a new environment with an ever-changing story as to what's happening. And if you wanted to do something like make this into a mobile game, you could add different types of enemies based upon the environment that you're in. And also make it so that your start, like you don't immediately run into obstacles, would be nice. Because I'm guessing this is just procedurally generated. You don't have a huge control over where some of these obstacles spawn besides randomly lining them up. But having, you know, different story elements that kind of tell you what's going on with this character as they go along would be really cool. Like, maybe they inadvertently help save the world. But it's always cool to, like, have somewhere to go and to, like, unlock new abilities or new characters that you can play inside of an Endless Runner. And I would say give a shot at trying to expand upon this, because that might be an interesting challenge for both you, Rixid, and your pal Yogi, and try to build this out into something a little more robust and see if you can't release it on phones. Because while, again, this isn't crazy AAA graphics, all this stuff looks like it fits together in the same universe. Add some more graphics to kind of spice things up with some new backgrounds, because there could be like boats or something in this endless coastal highways waters off to the side there. And you could do this on like mobile very easily. Because this doesn't look like it's especially graphics intensive. One of the biggest problems on mobile is games that go a little too crazy with particle effects. But you could do lots of stuff like this. I mean, just look at the game Crossy Roads. Crossy Roads had a bunch of features in it, like you could unlock different character skins. The gameplay really didn't change all that much. You could unlock new maps, and it would give people a reason to look at ads for your title to unlock skins and cool characters, and also give you an excuse to, I don't know, if you wanted to like do microtransactions or something. I'm not always the biggest fan of microtransactions, but, you know, watching an ad for some extra in-game currency is not necessarily a bad thing. And then you could do like some motion controls, because that's what the young people like in their mobile games these days, and you'd be good to go. So nice job, you two. Everything works pretty well. I haven't had any bugs or hiccups with this one, so well done. Next up on our lovely docket, we have Low Battery, a title by Maggard Josh, and Low Battery is an interesting kind of combination game. I would say, technically, if you were going to give it a genre, it would be in the puzzle category, but I would almost say it's like a puzzle/pattern game in the way that you have to control your character so that you can complete the objective without exploding, or dying or running out of battery. And the way that this works is we are playing as an adorable little robot. I'd almost describe it as like a cute little Roomba. And we have to get from our charging pad to the exit without running out of power or being destroyed by some type of evil, insidious alien critter. And otherwise, we just have to make sure that we don't run out of power before we get there, or we get back to the charge pad. We can only move a total of 8 times before we are out of power. So that is basically our main conundrum right now. The other thing that I found was rather interesting was the fact that the enemies in this game only move when you move, so you have to lure them into getting just close enough that you can walk right up and attack them. Otherwise, if they attack you first, they will kill you and they will win. So I'm in a position right now where I can kill this alien, but if I'm not careful, he'll attack me first. So I think this next level will illustrate that pretty well. Actually, no, I guess it won't. Well, basically, if I'm not careful with how I destroy these aliens, if I approach them first, so that the next turn is theirs, they'll hit me and kill me like they did right here. But if I walk over here, and I'm the one that gets the hit off first, then I'm the one who wins, and I can successfully reach the buzz pad without getting murdered. And that's pretty simple and straightforward, and I kind of like this particular sort of puzzle game. This is one where you don't necessarily have to worry about solving a set-in-stone puzzle with a particular sort of logic. This is just analyzing very simple patterns which change depending on which direction you move in a given level, and then you can use that to define how you would solve any given puzzle. So it's kind of like the puzzle is a pattern that's based around you as opposed to you trying to solve some potentially confusing set of logic that might be somewhat alien to your normal playstyle, which I think works pretty well. In this case, we have lovely aliens that like to get in a queue, so we can clobber them one after another. The other thing I really enjoy about this game is that it's got a really fun, cartoony art style to it. Like, I don't necessarily have, HD photorealistic graphics to tell that this is an alien right here, but the giant classic bug eyes, little body, and massive head really sells it. Same with the robot's body. Like, I can kind of tell there's some wheels in there. There's a little antenna. Then everything else kind of just looks like maybe we are an antivirus program that is just trying to do its thing in cyberspace without the computer that it's running in getting overwhelmed by what I assume could potentially be viruses. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you could interpret these enemies. Like, they could be sort of like Reboot, where they're a bunch of glitches in the system that might potentially try to infect the computer and destroy it. I don't know. Something pretty good about that I kind of like. And then all you gotta do is you just gotta avoid all these enemies and move on to either like the next circuit in the computer or the next sector or part of the hard drive, and you go from there. And all of these enemies, like, they're not crazy complicated, but they all have a certain amount of logic to them that makes sense. Like, these guys move once every 2 turns, the aliens move every 1 turn, and to let you know exactly what turn you're on, these guys blink. Now, unfortunately, I did encounter one bug in this game so far, and that is on this level, after you die the first time, you can't really click on anything, so you have to go back out to the menu and then start over on this level from scratch, which can be a little bit tricky if you want to progress in this game. So let's see, how do I want to... Oh, this is... You spicy devil, you. So that just it's kind of a weird hiccup. It makes it difficult to really decide how you want to progress in this level. But other than that, like, this game has been pretty solid. So I'll swap you and swap you. Swap. And then, come on. One more. There we go. Perfect. But yeah, no, like, I like it. There's very simple enemies. They all make a lot of sense. And these levels are very... They're not really accentuated with anything, but they're cute and they make a lot of sense. So what is this alien doing? He's like moving opposite of how I am moving. I'm about to lure you out here, sir. Crud. So how do I... Oh, yep, there's the bug again. So yeah, like, I like this game's idea. Now I'm just trying to decide how I think this could proceed from here. Because you've got these interesting little alien critters that all want to fondle your giblets, but I'm just kind of wondering if you could add a story to it, or if maybe it's just kind of a fun standalone type game. Because clearly these aliens have their own agenda, where they want to do stuff and murder things. But are they evil, or are you an invader into their world? Because I like the concept that maybe they are just little misunderstood critters that really just want to invade this world. That's entirely possible. Maybe you're defending a computer, like I said, or maybe it's just a fun puzzle game. You're a robot, there are weird alien creatures, evil robots, and you have to defend them from destroying things inside of your home. And that's perfectly fine. Like, that's compelling, it's simple, and then all you'd maybe need to do is give some little razzmatazz to the different environments, and you'd be good to go. And aside from, the couple of hiccups that I experienced, everything in here works really well. All of the enemies make sense. It'd be nice to have some new enemies, maybe. Now, this would be kind of crazy. I haven't seen this before, but it would be interesting if you could incorporate a boss puzzle level where you have to interact with certain objects and certain arrangements and patterns around a level in order to kill a large, gigantic boss from one of the, like a giant alien or like a weird cybernetic suited robot of some variety. That would be kind of cool. Otherwise, really nice job. I'm not really sure what to say about this game, but this is definitely one of those that you could make this into a PC game. You could make this into a mobile game. Definitely a mobile game with how simple the controls are. All you need is the cardinal directions to poke on your phone and you can control your character. I think you should definitely expand on this, and I think this could definitely go in a myriad of different directions. Alrighty, last but certainly not least, we've got Battery Man, which is a jam entry that's made by Xavier Eckel, Bram van Elderen, Kenrick D'Souza, Kirk Mercarian, and Ben Lee. And Battery Man is a jam entry that is all about an industrious superhero. Oops, I need to minimize something. An industrial, blah, 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 blah. I'm not wording very well today. An industrious superhero who, unfortunately, has been drained of all of his power. He functions as something of an electrical man, a battery man, and he must have been in a fight with a supervillain, or maybe it was just Saturday night and he's trying to impress the ladies. So he needs to recharge his batteries before he faints or, God forbid, dies. But unfortunately, the only available supply of power is the world's power grid, which is supposed to be not for superheroes to recharge their powers. But I guess we're a naughty boy, so, what else is new? But uh-oh, now the world doesn't have any power, and we have to go and fix things. So that's the name of the game. We have Battery Man recharges the world. And it's always nice to see a game that incorporates some level of story, even if it's silly and sort of on the cartoony side. So the way that this game works is we have to fill these different power pylons in all these different neighborhoods with power, and then we have to spin on top of them in order to get them activated and receding into the ground. All while we have to be careful that all of these electronic addicted young people don't try to steal our desperately draining reserve of power before we have successfully saved the world. And that's basically the whole of the game. We just have to fill all these pylons and avoid the ever-changing, ever-growing mass of young folk, or maybe even older folk, with their craned necks staring at their screens, from stealing all of our energy. And I felt this was actually oddly poignant to the type of culture that we live in a lot of first world countries these days. I mean, just when I was back in college, when smartphones were just becoming a thing, we had issues with people staring at their iPods and staring at their computers because they had their laptops out in their hands while they were walking, and they would do things like walk in front of a train. Thankfully, downtown where the college was, the trains didn't go that fast, and they didn't end up getting killed. But, it's a very dangerous thing, and people in their technology-obsessed or distracted brains are becoming an increasing danger to themselves and very often others. So this seemed very accurate to me. Although I think my one qualm with the way that a lot of these characters are designed is that they all kind of seem like the same character, just scaled up and kind of stretched a little bit. which I'd imagine is probably more to do with the jam itself, because you didn't have a lot of time. But it would be nice to see a wider variety of models for different characters that their power or how they react is based upon the type of device that they themselves wield as a piece of their addiction, their technology addiction. Like, let's say that, like, the big guys that move slowly could be somebody who has a disability, but they're staring at their phone in one hand, and their rascal scooter has turned into some sort of bizarre, like, Spider-Tron robot that is slowly crab walking across the environment trying to find more energy. Like, I think that would be kind of cool. So just different types of energy, bandit enemies that all look kind of funny, but all relate in some way to whatever technology that person would wield were the power actually on and not out currently. Maybe the big, so we covered the big guys, maybe the little guys, what could they be? Oh, the little guys could be like kids. They could be little kids whose parents bought them like a Fisher-Price speak and spell tablet, and then they are like coming to get you, and they'll like mob you in a massive, fast-moving horde. That would be interesting. Am I missing something here? Is there no? Oh, here it is. I was like, where is the last pylon? The pylons in the graphics, I don't know how well those do or don't seem to fit together. Those seem a smidge out of place based upon the rest of the graphics. I might take a crack at making everything seem like it's a little bit more meshed together, because these seem really futuristic and everything else in the environment seems a little bit more on the plain side. So who's this guy? I guess that guy's just full of light? Does he drain my powers? I'm not sure what that is. He must spawn people or something. Huh. He must just cause a draining zone? I'm not sure what that guy's doing. But either way, like, this is a strong concept, and I can see why this became popular on itch.io. And I would say keep up the good work. Like, I could definitely see this guy getting some other superhero-y powers that accentuates the stuff that he does to save the world. And getting further into this game, it might be interesting to see what sort of dastardly supervillain organization he was trying to fight before all of this stuff happened. Or maybe that's what the evil villains were trying to do. They were trying to use him against the populace. Yeah, that would make sense to me. Like, they were using him as a weapon against his own citizens. So yeah, nice job, and I look forward to seeing where this is going in the future. It's a nice package. Just needs some refinement, and I could see this being a very humorous superhero game that definitely doesn't take itself too seriously. So nice job, guys. I look forward to seeing what you folks work on in the not-too-distant future. Oh, I forgot to spin on this one. That's what the internet has always told me. You always gotta remember to sit and spin. So that's it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I've been your host, Larry the Chupacabra. Thanks for joining me for another Larry Does Ludum. I hope you enjoy these series, and for those of you who are interested in voting on these, if you are someone who also competed in Ludum Dare, you can find the links to these games in the video description below, and also for the developers out there who might submit their games to me, please link the Ludum Dare page to me on the LD Jam website. Otherwise, it sometimes is very hard, depending on the name of the game, in order to find the page so that people know where they can go to vote on it. Because, you know, some games just have the right kind of name, where there's a lot of crossover, so you get a lot of false results, and it can be often very tricky to try and find the right page via Google search or the LD Jam search. So otherwise, check these games out, they're very delicious. Don't forget to like and subscribe, submit your games to the Google form below. I'm going to try to do even more games than I did before, and I'll catch you guys and gals next time. Bye, everybody, and have a good one.